All right, welcome back to the Goals.com podcast, where we dive into what really drives sales performance at the highest levels. Today's guest is Martin Cody, Executive Vice President of Sales at Data Biologics, a healthcare sales veteran with more than 3 decades of experience. Martin has built a career on creating partnerships that matter, helping physicians and health systems unlock evidence-based insights that change the way medicine is delivered. Oh, and if that's not enough, he also co-founded a luxury wine company, Sales Science and Sauvignon. We've got it all today. Let's get into it.
Thank you, Andrew.
You've been in sales leadership for over 3 decades. Looking back, what's one early career lesson that still shapes how you sell and lead today?
It depends. Some of the early lessons came from exposure to some of the greats, whether it was Zig Ziglar, Napoleon Hill, and those sorts of luminaries in the aspect of sales and relationship building and taking care of the customer and kind of learning old school methodologies and philosophies that have still shaped me to today. But I think from the working aspect, early on, I had a very discipline-oriented manager that talked about setting the framework in place and sticking to the framework. And it was militant, might be an overused adjective, but it was very strict in that capacity. And there were very few excuses allowed for not getting the job done. So that kind of put or instilled in me a methodology of, okay, anything you need to do can be done. It just needs to be systematized, operationalized, and have the framework put in place, and then the discipline to stick to that framework. Then later on, I was fortunate to get exposed to a luminary in the healthcare industry named Glenn Tolman. Glenn said something at one of our national meetings to an audience of 750 people that has resonated with me. This is going on 15, 20 years now. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it sounds trite, like might be on the back of a soup can or something like that, or, back in the old day, but it really is true. They don't care about everything that you have from a product offering until they recognize and care how much it's going to do for them. That age-old phrase of, you better take care of the customer or someone else will, still resonates with me and still absolutely is in the forefront of my mind 24/7.
Yeah, for sure. Transitioning from traditional healthcare sales into regenerative medicine must have been fascinating. What drew you to the emerging field?
Well, for the last 6 or so years, I've worked upstream from where I'd spent over 20 some odd years, and that was at the provider-patient encounter. So being upstream for that and trying to make that administratively run better for both the provider and patient was a nice change of pace. But in the regenerative medicine space, I'm kind of back to my core roots, helping providers derive satisfaction, fulfillment, profit, happiness, everything from their chosen profession at the provider-patient encounter level. So when you think about it, the healthcare system is the only system I know of that every single one of us will touch at some point in their lives. And sadly, Harvard Business Review did a study on the most lonely professions, and physician was one of the top two. It was either physician or attorney. And that is a bit depressing. So if we can figure out a way to help these ladies and gentlemen perform more efficiently, more productively, retain that passion for why they got into medicine, remove the financial burden behind it, help bring patients to them, and let them do what they're gifted to do, that is what has resonated with me. And especially in this regenerative medicine space, we have got an aging population. The silver tsunami, as you have heard, with regards to the number of people moving into retirement age, they all need to be taken care of in some way, shape, or form. And whether that's orthopedically, whether that's using their own PRP, platelet-rich plasma, and that sort of stuff, the regenerative medicine space is going to play a big piece of that. So being able to get in at the ground level with Data Biologics, it was a really attractive opportunity.
Yeah, it's super interesting. As Executive Vice President of Sales at Data Biologics, what does a typical day look like for you? Or is there no such thing?
There's some things. A typical day, and keep in mind, I'm on day 7 in the role, so let's put that into perspective.
Sure.
My typical day usually starts out very, very early, regardless of who I'm working with or working for. And, not official work time. I'm up 5:30 every morning. I've got a discipline, a routine that is basically a derivative of Robin Sharma's The 5 a.m. Club, another personal development guru that I think highly of. And so I go through a litany of things as it relates to energy, work, and love. And as a standpoint of I'm going to get sweaty first thing in the morning and work out, and then I'm going to be contemplative and do some meditation, and then I'm going to be planning out and strategizing my day. And there's a little bit of a military theme to it because I tend to do more before 9 a.m. than most people do all day, if you remember those old commercials. So then I get into the data biologic stuff, and it's looking at, okay, what organizations curate large groups of physicians, either in the orthopedic space or in the medical device space, that say, hey, we've got a brand new technology and we would like to track that. And we want to track outcomes. And that's one of the things that also drew me to it from a standpoint is their registry, their data registry is all populated by patient reported outcomes. So this is an unbiased source of truth aspect. And you look at where everyone's wanting to get to, whether it's pharmacological studies, life science studies, device effectiveness. More often than not, if a drug company or a pharma company says, hey, here's our white paper on the effectiveness of our treatment, it's not really an unbiased white paper. It's not going to say their treatment stinks, right? It's going to say their treatment is superior to everything else because they paid for the study. However, when you've got patient reported outcomes, then there's some neutrality there. The database and registry that Data Biologics has is getting populated more and more by thousands of patient outcomes so providers can track what's working. And then I like to empower physicians. And so when you can put in the physician's hand at the point of care or at the bedside or sitting in the physician's office, and he or she can show you on paper, hey, here's what we're talking about. Here's what the patients are reporting in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 15 months on out, and the efficacy of this treatment. That's not the provider distorting the findings. That's real patients like you and I that are considering this treatment. That has massive appeal and power to it because it removes all of the stigma of someone financing that study for the results.
Sure. Many sales leaders talk about balancing short-term wins with long-term partnerships. How do you personally approach that balance?
That's a good question. The win aspect is intriguing because most folks that know me and that I've had the pleasure of working with know that I say we either win or learn. There's really no such thing as losing. And I now, teach my nieces and nephews this. You didn't win the soccer game. What did we learn type of stuff? And how do we get better and get 1% better? Another great book. I think the small wins, you just have to build them and compound them. And the compound effect, Darren Hardy, another great book. So these are some of the things that I try to incorporate into the process of, okay, if you don't get the outcome that you wanted, then you got smarter. So what can you learn from that outcome and how can you iterate upon the processes that you put in place to lead to the small victories? And all of it, Andrew, comes down to adopting some sort of methodology for how you're going to approach the business. Now, there's a bunch of popular ones out there, Pinnacle, EOS, Sharma's got his own thing on how to create, masterpiece days and design weeks and stuff like that. But you better adhere to it and stick to it, and then look at the deliverables that you want through the lens of that operating system. And if you have the discipline to do that, and this is why I'm kind of high on EOS right now, because it breaks the entrepreneurial organizational system, breaks everything down step by step for your business. And then everybody can be looking through the same lens. Everyone's pulling in the same direction. All of that stuff is important. And the small wins will compound. I don't measure anything by, oh, we won today or anything like that. And at its purest form, and it's a long answer to a great question, but look at what Nick Saban, when he coaches and those sorts of things, he starts out with, we don't go out to pursue a national championship. We don't go out to pursue an SEC championship. We go out to pursue what can we do right now in the process to execute at our fullest level the step right in front of us. If that's blocking, if that's tackling, if that's understanding the play, none of it is so distant on the horizon that you lose sight of it. It's what can I do right now? That's the process right now in this moment. And when you keep drilling that into your head, the wins will compound. But if you focus on the wins versus the discipline and the methods to get the wins, you won't achieve them.
I love that. I've heard you say that time is our most precious resource. How do you instill that mindset in your sales teams?
Measurement and letting them know that, and I say this all the time, there's 1,440 minutes per day. We're all gifted with the same amount. When you subtract what you're sleeping, knock out, if you're sleeping 7 hours, there's 420 minutes gone. So now you're at just above 1,000. If you've got a long commute, if people are driving to the office, you start whittling down very quickly. It's like, wow, I have 120 minutes of massive productivity that I can put in per day. After you throw in exercise and dining and all sorts of stuff, they aren't making an app for that. There's no more than 24 hours in a day type of stuff. And so it's not only precious to us, it's extremely precious to our customers and the people we serve. And I have preparatory meetings with prospects to say, what are your expectations in working with us? How do you like to be communicated with? Is it email? Is it phone? I want to be respectful of your time. I want to make you more efficient so that you have more time in the day. But in order to do that, let's figure out how we can collaborate and strategize together so that I can actually deliver on what you're expecting. That all takes time. We waste so much time, it's laughable. All of us watch a lot of sports, or I should say most of us do. But I would defy someone who's not in the sports arena and say, what was the NCAA championship game in football in 2022? Chances are you watched it, but right now, not many people can tell me who played. But there's 4 hours of your life that was gone. I'm guilty of it too. So I try to instill in them that some of these things are important, but balance and perspective is also important.
Absolutely. Regenerative medicine is still an emerging space. What are the biggest misconceptions you encounter when talking with physicians or health systems?
I'm probably too new to even give an adequate, intelligent answer on that, but I can tell you what I suspect it will be and I feel for the physicians in this capacity. And I've been working with physicians for 2.5, 3 decades. There has been a significant amount of additional non-clinical work placed upon their shoulders through no decision of their own. This is, regulatory items, compliance items, payment items, prior authorization demands, reimbursement claims, all of this stuff, meaningful use. They are exhausted. So I think there would probably be a hesitancy to say, oh, here's another way that I have to generate a study, or here's something else that I'm going to have to invest my time. But if we can get a few minutes with them to show them not only how minimal their time involvement is, but the ROI of being 10 or 15x or 20x more that time involvement, and then the benefit and increase to their patient satisfaction, and what that can mean for their practice as it grows, then I think we've got a winning combination. So don't be so hesitant that you don't want to look at it, because the patient outcomes is what's going to drive the results. And that is growing in a very, very good trend.
Definitely. How does your team approach the challenge of selling in an industry where evidence, outcomes, and ethics are under constant scrutiny?
It's a good question too. I don't know of a single industry where those things aren't under scrutiny, and with good reason, right? I learned a long time ago, you can win the battle and lose the war. And that holds some sway in how you take care of people. And I also learned, and maybe this was Napoleon Hill very early on in Think and Grow Rich, but the premise of always give value and give value first, that has served me quite well. So if someone, it's, you probably get 100 emails a day, everyone gets 100 plus emails a day, 99 of them are noise. We have to be so good that when our email appears in someone's inbox, they open it. And I'm not talking clickbait or anything like that, but they know that every time I touch or interact with Data Biologics, I learn, my practice performs better, my staff is more productive, or something like that. That takes time, that takes intelligence and effort on our part, but that's what we strive for, so that they know if they're dealing with Martin Cody or anybody at our organization, they're going to benefit from it. And that ends up paying dividends and rewards and getting to the small wins.
Sales in healthcare can be slow moving and highly complex. What's your advice to reps who get discouraged by long sales cycles?
Uh, that's a brutal reality in healthcare. It is arguably and shockingly and disappointingly the slowest moving industry there is. And it's painful. I would read a book called Embrace the Suck. I spend and invest a significant amount of time reading. A lot of it is Navy SEAL type stuff, and slow sales processes are absolutely brutal. We can do a bunch on the front end to help mitigate that by asking pristine questions and doing the research in advance when we get to the meeting so that the meeting is productive. I'm going to send you something as it relates to literature that you've requested. When should I expect a response from you? Now, it's not always going to be true. They could say 2 days. Well, 4 days later, they could have ghosted you and you're still chasing stuff down. Happens all the time. It's not personal. They've got a lot of things on their plate, which is why you just have to be extraordinary to make certain that we can rise above the noise. I've been the last 10 years involved in sales processes where the average sales cycle is 9 to 12 months. Some go on to 18 to 24 months. And they're very complex, and it takes a lot of green lights, but one yellow light can hold it up, as the saying goes. So if you're into immediate gratification, maybe this sales process isn't for you because it doesn't happen. It takes a long time to build relationships where people trust you, and most of the buying decisions, people buy from people they trust, and there's no app that can hack that timeline and that investment process.
Definitely. What role does storytelling play when you're selling something as technical and life impacting as regenerative medicine solutions?
For me, storytelling is a big component of it. And I think here's a perfect example. Storytelling, especially now that AI is everywhere, is paramount for my style as it relates to building relationships. And one of the things you're seeing the drumbeat start to increase on as it relates to AI is data governance, data accuracy, because you have these companies investing tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on AI data infrastructure, and they're building models on data that may not be accurate. And I envision, and I'm going to date myself here, Andrew, I envision that there's a CTJ moment come to Jesus, where if you remember the movie Poltergeist back in the 80s, and Craig T. Nelson at the climax of the movie was realizing that you moved the gravestones, but you didn't move the bodies. There's going to be that epiphany in AI. It's like we've been modeling all of this on bad data. Then you throw in the compliance aspect of like, well, hang on a second. The radiologist made that interpretation upon that information and gave this clinical guidance upon that interpretation. And now you're telling me the interpretation was wrong or the underlying data was inaccurate. Well, who's liable? Is it the radiologist? Is it the healthcare system? All of that's coming. So storytelling with an impact, you should scare the heck out of someone if you're going to be making clinical decisions based upon AI generated data. That should scare you because the compliance around that and the source of truth associated with that still has yet to be defined.
Sure. When you think about the best salespeople you've worked with, what common traits stand out?
Loyalty, relentless persistence, disciplined, and they build relationships. And loyalty, they'll do more for the customer and prospect, and they put the customer's needs ahead of the company's needs. So that is a dying breed, unfortunately, of a salesperson. Um, the average tenure of salespeople is, I believe, under 3 years, which is amazing at different organizations. And they're jumping around, so it's very difficult to build loyalty in that capacity. That's a short time frame. But when too many salespeople now are taking the quick wins of the battle and then ultimately losing the war rather. But if you can have the discipline to say, you know what, I'm not, the company asks you to do something, it's like, no, I'm not doing that because that's not going to benefit my customer. My customer needs to succeed because I'm still of the belief, and I've seen it time and time again, a successful customer attaining what they're supposed to attain through the use of your product adoption or service adoption, they will sell more than you will. Because when they're happy, when they're productive, when revenue's growing, when profitability and margins are growing, and they've got something to show other customers, they will tell other people and they will sell more than you. You just have to give that time to happen. And most folks, unfortunately, aren't investing that time. So those attributes of discipline, loyalty, relentless pursuit of helping the customer, they are the ones that are the hallmarks of sales attributes and skills that I see time and time again come at the top.
I love that. You've helped build partnerships across physicians, device companies, and health systems. What makes a partnership truly work?
It's win-win, but it's not 50-50. And I don't know what the exact percentage is. It's not 90-10 in favor of the customer either. The I've said for years, I hate the word vendor because the vendor is a derivative of the vending machine. And the vending machine provides no value. You stick $1 in, you know precisely what you're going to get out of it. It's $1's worth of a product or something like that. A partner, on the other hand, is looking out for your best interest. If you're in this together and you're collaborating and it's the rising tide scenario, it's like, if I can make you better, I'm in turn helping myself and my organization. And then you will in turn tell other people and so on and so on. And then it ripples out. That is what makes great partnerships. When they know again that you care more about their best interests than what you are selling, that resonates with people. Take care of them, help them to succeed. It's not only good in business; it's good in life.
Machine learning and AI are becoming central to healthcare sales intelligence. Where do you see the biggest opportunities for sales teams in that space?
Research, research in advance of meetings, and it is it is confounding to me how a salesperson can go into a prospect call or a discovering call and say, "Tell me about your business." If I'm the prospect or customer in that capacity, I might get out of my office, Zoom call over, because there is unbelievable amounts of terabits of data available at your fingertips, where if you would have invested 15 minutes of time, you could learn all about my business, all about my recent hires, all about our recent news, everything that's going on with this. If we're a publicly traded company, you can research all of the 10Ks and find out what's happening, what our quarterly dividends are. If you aren't investing that time, you're not serious about your craft. And I come from a time and age where we used to have to get to towns 2 and 3 days early when we were calling on health systems, and go to the library and pull out microfiche and look at articles and newspapers from the last 6 months to see who was a shaker and mover in the community and what was the hospital doing or health system doing. All that is available with 3 clicks now. So I think the way AI and ML is changing it is they're bringing the ability to deliver value to the sales executive's fingertips in seconds. And for anybody that's not utilizing that, they're doing so at their own detriment and at their organization's detriment.
Hmm. You also co-founded Cellar Angels, a luxury wine company. Has your experience in wine sales taught you anything you've applied back into healthcare sales?
Uh, Probably that if you're going to be in healthcare, you're going to need a vice. And I'm not certain that's the right answer. It's actually, part of it was passion. I'm passionate about wine. I'm passionate about travel, but I'm also passionate about helping. And in the wine industry specifically, actually, this is global. I know the North American wine industry very well. I know Napa and Sonoma very well. And it's not too dissimilar to small businesses in healthcare. Yes, there are some giant publicly traded healthcare companies, but the majority of physician practices, the majority of device companies, they are not Medtronic, as good as Medtronic is. They're up and coming entrepreneurs. It's the same way in wine. It might be 2 or 3 people at a small independent label that is producing 500 cases, but it's pristine fruit from a certain vineyard source in Napa. They just don't have the distribution channel because no distributor in what is a very easily understandable rigged system of alcohol movement in the United States doesn't favor the small producer. It favors someone producing 100,000 cases. So that I see in wine, and I see it in the healthcare industry as well. But the majority of the businesses out there are the smaller businesses that are doing things, the physician practice that has 4 doctors in it. This isn't Hopkins. This is a physician practice that has four doctors. No disrespect to Hopkins. They're world class and amazing. But I would like to help them because these guys are in it for, in my opinion, the right reasons. So the wine parallels that a lot. Entrepreneurs exist everywhere. And if we can help them make a difference, then everybody benefits.
I love that. After such a dynamic career, what still excites you about sales every single day?
The ability to watch the impact of kindness manifest inside of an organization, and kindness can be interpreted in multiple ways. If you give someone a tool and they perform better, and the light bulb goes off in their head, there is a release of dopamine. and it's a release of dopamine in their neuronal pathway and the person who gave it to them and anybody that observes that. So that excites me. It makes me giddy. It's like, if we can have that impact and make these people perform better, keep them out of harm's way from an administrative, regulatory compliance perspective, and patients benefit, and the patient gets treatment faster. The patient responds better to the treatment and they get on with their life more quickly. That excites me. That drives me. I want to see that happen. I want to see it happen at a gargantuan level.
Right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode with Martin Cody, a true master of building partnerships, leading with data, and proving that sales is as much about trust and time as it is about numbers. Big thanks to Martin for sharing his insights. And if you're enjoying the show, make sure to follow and share the Goals.com podcast with your team. Until next time, keep pushing, keep selling, and keep chasing those goals.
This episode is brought to you by Goals.com, the sales performance platform built to help teams stay focused, motivated, and on track. While most CRMs just track data, Goals.com drives real results. It's simple, affordable, and designed to help your sales team hit targets faster, without the headache of complex setup or costly consultants. Whether you're using a CRM or not, Goals.com works seamlessly to elevate your performance. Book a fun, fast demo today at Goals.com.